We interrupt our regularly scheduled programming to bring you Mark Mercer's Loving, Caring, and Sharing exclusively on North Star Radio.
Why isn't the music playing?
This is Loving, Caring, Sharing.
Woo! Here we go! We are back. Loving, caring, and sharing. Well, I say we are back. Not all of us are back. You know, Mark is in the asylum. That should have happened a long time ago. Ah, well. North Star Radio brings you Mark Mercer's Loving, Caring, and Sharing. Broadcast all over the world. And, of course, North Star Radio is broadcast 24/7.
I do have to correct you. It's Steve DeLoach's Loving, Caring, and Sharing.
Well, that's certainly true tonight. Tonight, I'm going to be your host. We've got a great show tonight, folks. We're going to be hearing from people literally everywhere. We're going to be hearing from Mitt Romney. We're going to be hearing from Charles Krauthammer. We're going to be hearing from Clint Eastwood. We're going to be hearing from Donald Trump. We're going to be hearing from Michael Berry. You don't know who he is? Well, you'll find out. We're going to be hearing from Bernie Marcus. We're even going to be hearing tonight from Ronald Reagan. So we've got a big, big show, lots of guests, lots of people that are going to be a part of our show tonight. Before we do that, though, I want to talk about a couple of other things. And certainly before I do all of that, I want to introduce you to our producer and the owner of North Star Radio, Daniel Davison. How are you tonight, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you, Steve. How are you?
I am great. I have been stoked for this show all week long. Can you feel it?
Oh, absolutely. And I've been dying to get rid of Mark for about 6 months.
Well, I've known Mark for about 18 years, and I feel your pain. So I know exactly how you feel.
I'm so glad you put him in the asylum.
Well, you know, somebody had to do it.
Absolutely.
Somebody had to do it. He may actually be able to join us tonight. We'll have to wait. Yeah, well, you know, you never know. You never know. But, you know, before
I hope he's had his one call, because then he won't be allowed.
Well, you know, anything is possible. I want to talk about a couple of things that we're not really going to discuss tonight, but I just want to kind of get them out of the way. There's been a lot that's gone on this last week. Amazing things that have gone on. It appears that Sandra Fluck, that her 15 minutes of fame is finally winding to an end. You may remember, Daniel, Sandra was the law student that tried to testify before Congress that she needed about $3,000 a year to pay for her birth control.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do.
Yes. And there was a big stink about it, all kinds of crazy stuff. Well, last Saturday, she had a speaking engagement in Reno, Nevada. And boy, the venue was top rate. She was speaking at the Sack and Save grocery store out on the parking lot in Reno, Nevada, for the Democratic Party's Get Out the Vote initiative. And boy, the crowd was amazing. She spoke to 10 people. 10.
Wow, she had a good crowd.
You know, I think that any one of us, any one of our panel, anybody that I know could probably schedule a speaking event on the parking lot of a grocery store and probably get more than 10 people. So I would think that Sandra's 15 minutes of fame has, well, it's probably run its course. There's another little thing that I read in the Washington Times about the anti-Muslim filmmaker that supposedly started all of this mess in Benghazi. We're going to talk more about Benghazi a little later. This guy's name was Nakula Basili Nakula, 55-year-old filmmaker who was responsible for the anti-Muslim video that nobody saw. He's been under arrest for the last month. And he remains under arrest and will be under arrest until 3 days after the presidential election. Why do you think that is?
NDA 2012.
I'm guessing that the reason for that is that the Obama administration doesn't want him to be able to talk. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. I also noticed something in one of the national papers, an article that Billy Graham purchased. And I'm not talking an article, I'm talking a full page ad that he took out. And it's got a picture of him, a very good picture of him as he's standing there holding his Bible at one of his speaking events. But here's what he had to say. The legacy we leave behind for our children, grandchildren, and this great nation is crucial. As I approach my 94th birthday, I realize this election could be my last. I believe it is vitally important that we cast our ballots for candidates who base their decisions on biblical principles and support the nation of Israel. I urge you to vote for those who protect the sanctity of life and support the biblical definition of marriage between a man and a woman. Vote for biblical values this November 6th and pray with me that America will remain one nation under God. And it's signed Billy Graham. I'm actually quite impressed with what Billy Graham had to say there. And then there's another thing that we're not going to have a lot of time to get to, but I thought it was interesting because James O'Keefe, a young man who broke the big Acorn scandal with his undercover video reporting, has now come out with a new video of Congressman Jim Ryan's son, Democratic Congressman Jim Ryan's son from Virginia, who is conspiring with a young man about how to commit voter fraud. And needless to say, Patrick no longer works for his father's campaign. And unfortunately, Patrick may have really painted himself into a nasty corner, because my understanding is that just conspiring to commit voter fraud is a felony. So it'll be interesting to see how these stories play out. Perhaps in next week's show, they will have gathered up a little more legs on these stories, or maybe not. I frankly hope that we've heard the last from Sandra Fluck, but I suspect that that's not the case. We've got a big show tonight, and we're going to be playing several audio clips this evening of different things. And our first clip is a Super PAC ad that was just released, I think today or yesterday. And it is amazing because it's Mitt Romney talking during, I believe, the second debate and discussing some of the shortcomings of the Obama administration. We're going to play that clip in just a moment, and then we're going to go around and I'll introduce you to our guests who are here with us tonight. Daniel, if you can play that clip for us of the Super PAC.
Absolutely.
I can tell you that if you're to elect President Obama, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a repeat of the last 4 years. He said that by now we'd have unemployment at 5.4%. The unemployment, the number of people who are still looking for work, is still 23 million Americans. He said he would have by now put forward a plan to reform Medicare and Social Security. He hasn't even made a proposal. This is a president who has not been able to do what he said he'd do. He said that he'd cut in half the deficit. He hasn't done that either. In fact, he doubled it. The middle class is getting crushed under the policies of a president who has not understood what it takes to get the economy working again. There are more people in poverty. 1 out of 6 people in poverty. When he took office, 32 million people were on food stamps. Today, 47 million people are on food stamps. The president wants to do well, I understand, but the policies he's put in place have not led this economy take off and grow like it could have.
Super PAC for America is responsible for the content of this message.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a powerful ad because, and by the way, notice that what Mitt Romney does is he doesn't call President Obama a ninny. He doesn't, pardon, he doesn't call him a liar. He doesn't call him a dunce. He doesn't attack him personally at all. In fact, he says he's a good man, but he just hasn't done the job. We've got several guests with us tonight, and I'm going to kind of go around the room and introduce some of them. Bill Looman is with us tonight all the way from Georgia. Bill is a businessman and a future political candidate. And Bill, how are you tonight?
I'm fine, and don't forget that I'm a United States Marine, always a Marine.
Always a Marine. You're
Always.
absolutely, I'm
Semper
sorry
Fi.
I overlooked that. What do you think of this you just heard?
Repeat that, sir.
What do you think of the clip, the ad that we just heard?
It was powerful, very powerful. It wasn't condescending, and that type of leadership is what we need in the Oval Office to replace the leadership that is lacking now.
I couldn't agree more. We also have with us tonight Dave Cummins. Dave was with us last week. Last week, Dave was in San Antonio. And tonight, well, Dave is in a dangerous place. Where are you tonight, Dave?
Well, I am in the city of Chicago. Well, not actually the city of, but a little bit west of that in Billy Graham's city of Wheaton, Illinois. And it's nice out here. I'm not dodging any bullets, at least.
Good, good. What do you think of the ad we just heard?
I agree. It was pretty powerful. But I actually not totally agree with what he said there. I don't think you'll get exactly what you got in the last 4 years. I think they'll even go further left and become more radical because he doesn't have anything to lose.
This conference is being recorded.
Well, I know that he, for instance, told the Russian president to make sure that he went back and told Vladimir that after the election he'd have more flexibility. What did that mean?
Exactly. Yep, they're going to go further more to the left, and that's why it's important not only to win the presidency back, but even more important to make sure we have a majority in the Congress to stop any more radical stuff from him, because I think he's going to pull the boat to the left even harder.
I couldn't agree more. We have Jamie tonight with us from Canada. Jamie, what do you think of the ad we just heard?
Well, I mean, it showed that he has class. There was no name calling. He was, very pleasant about saying the whole thing. I really think that Mitt Romney will do a lot of good for the United States, and he seems down to earth enough that he can hear what the people say.
When I think of Romney, the phrase "content of character" comes to mind. This is a man of impeccable. And I'm anxious and excited about the next 4 years of the Romney administration. Let's see. Have I forgotten anybody? Daniel, what did you think about the ad?
Well, again, I agree with Bill. He's got the presence of mind to actually lead your country rather than tell your country what to do.
Yeah, boy, isn't that a big difference?
Absolutely. I mean, Obama just tells the people what he thinks is right for America, whereas he has the sort of presence of mind to say, well, I will do what you would like me to do, but I need you to tell me what you'd like me to do.
Well, and that is really, really important. We need leadership. I look around in our country, I look around in the world, and I see a dramatic lack of leadership, particularly on the political scene. And it is scary to see where the United States is going, but not just the United States. Countries all over the world are suffering from the same deficit in leadership and in intelligence. And it is truly scary. Scary. We're gonna take a short break here. We're gonna play some music, and when we come back, we're gonna hear a speech that was delivered 40 years ago. and it will be masterful. So stick with us. We'll be back in just a few moments. And remember, you're listening to North Star Radio and loving, caring, and sharing.
And of course, the music I'm going to be playing right now is Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run.
Hey, Danny, will you play some more D-Rock?
Yes, I will. But I'm not going to play D-Rock all night.
No. I just that one song that brings.
I'll play Patriot Girl. Absolutely.
All right. Not Patriot Girl, the other one, the one that really means something.
Well,
I'll find it.
You guys are doing a bang-up job.
Oh, do you know, I am such an asshole. I didn't even record the bloody thing. Oh.
Don't worry about it. I got it. I recorded it. I've got it. You're all right. Everything's fine.
You need to get your Texas girlfriend back in England.
Can you hear me?
I'm not. Yes, I can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Did you copy? Is this thing working?
10-4, good buddy.
You do hear me?
10-4, good buddy.
All right, good.
Coming in wall to wall.
All right, look, I just want to make sure you understand. I put on Cool Edit an hour ago, so I got all the pre-show conversation, everything, including the introduction. Everything's fine. No worries. You're good to go, mate.
Okay. And, Mark, I haven't forgotten about you. We're going to bring you in a little later and have a little fun.
Mark?
I don't know if the doctors can let me out
Hey,
of there.
Mark, are we off the air?
What's that?
Yes, yeah, we are.
Daniel, we're off the air.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. If you switch over, I just listened to the player myself, and Bruce Springsteen is singing his heart out, that liberal.
Look, can I offer a suggestion?
Absolutely.
We need a Mark show, we need a Steve show, and maybe we need a Drunken Daniel show.
Well, we already had that. It's called British Bulldogs.
Well, I'm just saying, if we can get his girlfriend from Texas in there and they can do some heavy breathing for about an hour.
Oh, boy.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to ignite all the heavy breathers.
Oh, yes, you did.
I'm just saying, you need to get off the music and quit doing the lazy stuff and start putting in more shows, man.
I just don't have enough hours in the day, Bill.
Yeah, he got a job, don't you know?
You sound so Irish when you say that.
He's a regular working stiff now. He can't afford to be fooling around with this nonsense.
Top of the morning to you, sir, and the rest of the day to your missus.
Daniel, what is the time?
What's the
Even I caught the undertone there. The rest of the day to your missus. All right.
Daniel,
we've got 140 something or other left.
Thank you.
All right, we can be degraded at this.
And please, Jamie, if you can hold off when my mic's open, please don't send me messages because it goes and I don't have headphones on because I've got to play all this stuff.
And don't forget, lads, keep checking the IM messages to make sure you're up on top of what might be going on that you're not aware of.
I am doing.
I know you are. I'm just making sure the other guys know.
Right, we've got 1 minute left.
All right,
Steve's
great.
reality check.
Do you know? I used to work for a company called Reality. I used to work for a company called Reality Communications, and every time I got my paycheck, I used to say, "This is a reality check."
Then we got Daniel's heavy breathing. Show. You got enough time. You at least can do 1 hour. Heavy breathing.
30 seconds.
I'm a Miss Pervert.
Oh,
come on.
25 seconds.
Thank you.
Think about it. Think about expanding. Let's get Mark going. Let's get Stephen going. Steve's going to be in my neighborhood. We're going to have bacon. We're going to have eggs.
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh hell yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Steve.
Well, folks, that was I forgot who it was.
And Born to Run.
That was music.
I'm thinking about the show so much that all of this other stuff is just so much flotsam that is floating by. I truly have been stoked about this show all week. In fact, I got up real early this morning, way earlier than normal, and I was walking through the house. My wife was already up, and she said, "What are you doing up so early?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "I know. You're excited about the show." And I said, that's probably exactly what it is. Here in our next segment, we are going to be listening to a speech that, and it's not a long speech, so don't worry, but it is a speech by none other than Ronald Reagan. I stumbled across this speech on YouTube, and the title of it was Ronald Reagan Warned Us About Obama. Now, obviously, 40 years ago, Ronald Reagan didn't have a clue who Obama was. Obama wasn't even here. He was, I think, living in Indonesia at the time. And so, or Obama wasn't, was living there. But Ronald Reagan delivers this speech and actually gives us a warning about where he fears America is going. What makes this particular audio clip so unique is that as he's giving the speech, there's going to be interruptions from President Obama, from Nancy Pelosi, and from others that almost tend to illustrate exactly what Obama was warning us about. So, Daniel, let's take a listen to that, and then we'll talk about it with the group.
Okie dokie.
Now, one side in this campaign has been telling us that the issues of this election are the maintenance of peace and prosperity. The line has been used, we've never had it so good.
I won't have to worry about putting gas in my car. I won't have to worry about paying my mortgage. You know, if I help him, he's going to help me.
But I have an uncomfortable feeling that this prosperity isn't something on which we can base our hopes for the future.
The key point I'm making right now is that the economy is moving in a positive direction.
And yet our government continues to spend $17 million a day more than the government takes in.
You're telling me we got to go spend money to keep from going bankrupt? The answer is yes, I'm telling you.
We've raised our debt limit 3 times in the last 12 months. And now our national debt is 1.5 times bigger than all the combined debts of all the nations of the world.
We're going to raise the debt limit. We always have. We will do it again.
We have $15 billion in gold in our treasury. We don't own an ounce.
I have been informed that the majority plans to block consideration of this amendment, which is number 1367, regarding the transparency at the Federal Reserve.
Foreign dollar claims are $27.3 billion.
It said that China has now surpassed Japan as the U.S. government's largest creditor, owning at least 10% of all U.S. debt, perhaps as much as $700 billion.
And we've just had announced that the dollar of 1939 will now purchase 45 cents in its total value.
President Obama is expected to face tough questions over the U.S. decision to pump $600 billion freshly printed dollars into its economy. Now, the move is an attempt to revive the country's finances, but will result in a devaluation of the dollar.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours,
you'll construct a legal regime to make indefinite detention legal.
History will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers.
For some trips, it will be faster than flying without the pat down.
Anna was picked to go through. Pretty much everybody except the baby was picked to go through the scanner.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
Damn America, that's in the Bible.
Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
I've got a core set of values that I think have to be advanced, and that my individual salvation depends on our collective salvation.
You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down.
We had an election, and it was about a direction for our country.
And regardless of their sincerity, their humanitarian motives, those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. In this vote harvesting time, they use terms like the Great Society, or as we were told a few days ago by the President, we must accept a greater government activity in the affairs of the people.
E pluribus unum, out of many, one. In the end, that's what this election is about.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
Over the course of 10 years, it would cost what it would cost us. All right, okay, we're going to. It would cost us about the same as it would cost.
Well, what could you say to that?
You know, we could probably spend the rest of the evening talking about this audio. I particularly was impressed with what Mr. Reagan said about there is no left or right, there is only up and down. I remember distinctly when President Reagan was elected. I remember the 8 years of his administration, and he inherited a nation much like where we are now. Incredible debt, incredible inflation, massive unemployment. The misery index was through the roof. And when he left office, we zoomed to prosperity and continued to zoom to prosperity for the next 20 years. Why do you think that is?
25 years, I'm sorry.
Okay. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that this man was able to chart us onto a course that sustained us and served us so well? And by the way, I don't pretend to profess that everything that's happened over the last 25 years in the United States was perfect. No, there have been mistakes, and there have been problems, and there have been issues that have had to be addressed. But we enjoyed a robust economy for 25 years following the Reagan administration. Why is that, Bill?
Hey, I proudly served for 10 years. 8 of those years I served under my president, Ronald Reagan. I'm telling you, he set in place everything that needed to happen to try to offset what he foresaw was going to happen, the takeover of our nation. He knew what the liberals were all about. He knew that if he didn't get a handle on it and try to offset it or forestall it or change it, then it would take over very quickly. He didn't know that there would be a Barack Hussein Obama that was going to try to put it in hyperdrive and collapse our economy. But he had the foresight and the knowledge and the wisdom to try to save this nation.
Well, he may not have known Barack Obama's name, but he knew. He certainly didn't know Barack Obama's name, but he knew the kind of policies that Barack Obama stands for. And it's why he spoke so eloquently. You talk about the great communicator. People talk about how eloquent Barack Obama is as a speaker. Compared to Ronald Reagan, there is no comparison.
No, it's either heartfelt or it's makeup and art and Hollywood. And that's what we got to deal with now is Hollywood.
Boy, that's for sure.
That's his allies. That's all he's got. Propaganda, Hollywood, similar to what Hitler did back in a half century ago.
That's exactly right.
What Reagan did was speak to the patriots. He spoke to the people. He understood what was in parentheses, we the people. And through his administration, all he ever tried to do was protect America. That's something that this administration has overlooked, to be politically correct, or maybe they have intentionally set it aside so that we, the people, are no longer protected, that we are, to use a term that's not necessarily in the Bible, bastardized, or we are set aside and made to be a villain. You know, we, the people, are the United States of America. That's something that Ronald Reagan understood, and understood it passionately. He was only elected by a little over 50%, maybe 60%. It was a landslide. And he represented all of America. What this administration represents is the people that give him donations, the people that will be the useful idiots, so to speak, that will allow him or afford him the opportunity to further his cause. He is selfish. Ronald Reagan was unselfish. He cared about us.
That's certainly true. Dave, I can hear you back there chomping at the bit to get into this conversation.
Jump in, brother.
Let me hear what your take is on this speech and what you think of leadership then and leadership now.
Dave?
Well, you know, it helps if I unmute my microphone there.
That does help.
You know, yeah, it's a general thing. There's so much with that speech. I could just listen over and over and over and over again. He's mentioned everything from the inflation tsunami, basically, that's coming our way, and just all kinds of stuff, and the concept that freedom can be lost. And I think that is a point that's lost on a lot of Americans. They don't really believe in that possibility. And, you know, history is any indicator. It tells you it can and will be lost unless you're vigilant on keeping it suppressed, on the people suppressed on who want to take your freedom. And he hit on that. But the most disturbing thing about that was the bit on Obama when he said that he has a core set of values that needs to be advanced. That one set up big red flags to me. And, you know, all along, Obama really hadn't been lying. He's been telling people exactly what he's wanting to do, fundamentally change this country and all this other stuff. I mean, he is a socialist, if not full-blown communist, who wants to advance those views. And what needs to be advanced is the core values that were set at our founding. And to me, the most important one is to protect the people from a powerful government. And that's what Reagan he understood, and what he was he wanted to make sure that was in place. And that's exactly the opposite of what Obama wants.
You know, I remember when Reagan was president, and I remember him delivering speeches, and I would be sitting in my living room alone watching his speech. And when he finished, I had to stand up and cheer. I had to give him a standing ovation by myself in my house for no one to hear but me.
And he made you feel good about being an American, didn't it? You were proud to be an American underneath him.
Well, if I can just interject there, you know,
Sure.
Reagan made Britain, British people feel proud that we were an ally of America. And when you think about it, when Reagan was in power, Margaret Thatcher was in power here, another staunch conservative.
Yes.
And they made an absolute brilliant team.
They most certainly did. In fact, I'm not sure that ever in the history of Britain and the U.S. that there was a president and a prime minister that worked so well together and made such a dramatic impact on the world.
Well, exactly. I mean, if it wasn't for them, we'd still have the Cold War.
Hey,
you're absolutely right.
There was a strong presence in Europe when Winston Churchill was empowered, and our lackadaisical president was forced into a war, and you know who I'm talking about. At
FDR.
least Winston Churchill was so much a powerful leader that he was able to keep democracy in place, to keep our republic in place.
There is
the
Go ahead.
existing president, he had to do what he had to do to protect. And that's what his mission was, which isn't what this president's mission is right now.
Well, as I understand it, the Second World War, and I wasn't alive during that time, so I can only go by what I've read in history. But for the most part, while our British allies were being bombed into oblivion, most of the Americans were reluctant to get involved in that war because it didn't affect us. And we only entered that war when the Japanese attacked.
But you were, no, that's rubbish, because you were involved in the war because you sent troops to help us.
Yeah, I understand that.
We did. And we sent troops to China.
Yeah, you sent troops all over the place.
I understand that, but we were not.
You hadn't declared war. That's all.
That's right.
But that was because we had a weak president at the time. A fine example of a weak president was FDR, as well as Barack Hussein Obama, as well as Woodrow Wilson. Those are the ones that started this socialist activity. And I'm being politically correct when I say activity. Since Woodrow Wilson, through a whole century till now, we have had to deal with this because we're a free nation. We've had to deal with this slow trend of making us a socialist state. So FDR wouldn't enter the war unless he had to.
That's right.
And
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, and the only reason he did was because of Pearl Harbor.
Brothers, unless we had to, once we were forced into the war.
But he only declared but America only declared war on Japan, not the rest, not Europe.
Yeah, well, that
changed. We didn't declare war on Europe. We declared that we were all of a sudden we're in it with skin, so to speak. But you were always involved in the war anyway, because like I said, you sent troops until the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, and then that president had to do what was right. He was forced to do what was right. The only thing I'm saying is that Winston Churchill is the only reason that we have the salvation that we have now. He's the only reason we have the nation we have right now. He overpowered our president.
Here's the thing. Let's step away from.
Glory be to Britain again.
Let's step away from FDR and Churchill and the Second World War. Let's step back to Reagan and Thatcher. This was the true dynamic duo.
She and he were a dynamic duo.
There's no question. No question.
They gel well, as the kids would say.
We do not have the USSR today because of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher.
That was a perfect team.
Let me. I want to ask Jamie and I want to ask Daniel what the perception of Reagan was in their country at that time. Daniel's already touched on it a little bit. I want you to expand on it, but I'm going to go to Jamie first. Jamie, what was the view in Canada toward Ronald Reagan?
Well, I mean, it was a good view. He was a leadership for the people. He didn't order people around. Everything was for the people, but it wasn't just for the people. We didn't feel it was just for the people of the United States.
I agree.
It was for the people everywhere.
He was about promoting democracy, period. That's why he stood there in Germany and said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Well, let's put it this way. If there was really an Illuminati, he would have made a good world leader.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Daniel, how did they feel in England toward Ronald Reagan?
Oh, we absolutely adored him. it was, you know, him and Thatcher was a match made in heaven.
It sure was.
And seriously, it was a match made in heaven. There was only those two that could bring the